Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Oh Brother Comics. And let me be the first to say, Happy New Comic Book Day. Today, we're going to be going over some of the pickups that were picked up today. Unfortunately, I cannot participate in that because I got stuck at work and was not able to make it to the comic shop today. But, Nick, I'm going to be living through you today. I'm going to get my books later this week because you picked up. So let's go ahead and dive in and show these people what you got today. What'd you pick up,
Awesome,
bro?
man. Yeah, so this was a pretty good week. It was definitely a big dollar week for me, and we'll get to why. But first up for me is from Scout Comics, is one of my favorite comics coming from Scout. It's By the Horns. This is issue number 7. I have been absolutely loving that entire series. Up next is a cover purchase for me. It's by Ablaze Comics, and this is, I don't know how to say this. Is it Chimerian? But this is issue number 2, and this is a Thor 337 homage variant. And as you can tell, I am a Thor 337 homage variant collector.
Very much so.
And this one is the trade dress, so it has the actual Ablaze trade on it. And I ended up ordering 30 of them so that I could get the 1 in 30 incentive variant that is
Very nice.
I guess, kind of virgin-ish.
Yeah.
It's just trade dress less.
Right. Usually trade dress still does have like the name logo across the top of it, but
Correct.
I mean,
yeah, virgins usually don't have this, but I think with this particular cover, you kind of have to.
Right. The
like you have
337,
this
you have to.
Yeah, with some of these, like Venom down here on this bottom over here somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have it, but with this particular homage, like you kind of have to, because the whole point of this is that you're breaking the logo and like ushering in a new logo.
Right.
So yeah, I was actually really happy that that they kept the logo in on it.
That's really cool, man. So you finally got it, because I know you've been telling us that you've ordered this a long time ago to get this comic issue.
Yeah,
so
I ordered this the moment that it was announced. So
where are you going to put it, man? You don't even have any more room on those shelves with all these homages.
Yeah, I don't. All of the Overwatch stuff over here on my left side is coming down to expand over that way.
Nice. Heck yeah. Looking forward to seeing it on the shelf.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get like a wide angle lens or something though.
Yeah, but how close are you to completing that collection? Like, you got to be real close.
So there are 2 Do You Poo homage variants, one that has a white background, one that has a blue background. One of them is, I think, like a limited 50 run, and the other one is a 10 run.
Oh geez.
So I have searches that constantly ping me every day to see if anything has ever popped up, and I've never found one for sale. So if anybody has any leads, let me know.
That's right. And aren't you looking for a Nigerian one, aren't you?
I am. There is one picture online that people have been going off of, and it is a normal Thor 337, but it was printed by Princessa Comics in I believe 1991. So this one came out in 83. So 8 years later, they printed and nobody knows if it's like a bootleg version or if it was like legitimate. There's only, like I said, there's only one image online of an actual copy of it.
Oh dang.
And I have been searching for that one as well. It has the Nigerian N with the lines through it instead of the dollar sign, and it's $2 price tag on it.
Okay, awesome. Well, hopefully, if anyone out there has any news, they can leave a comment down below and at least lead you in the right direction.
Absolutely. I would love to complete this collection. But moving on, I did pick up the next Harley Quinn, and this is the animated series, Eat, Bang, Kill Tour, and this is issue number 3.
Can't wait to pick that up, man. It's been so good. Have you watched the show yet?
I have not.
Oh, come on, bro.
I definitely need to, but I was really enjoying the comics.
It's really
the first
fun.
2 issues were awesome.
Like I just love, the one thing I love about the show is make fun of everyone and everything about it. Characters, villains, like it's just so well done. The interactions, the character development. I love Kite Man, and I never was a huge fan of Kite Man, but now I'm like, hell yeah, Kite Man. But
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm loving the comics. So as soon as I have some time, you know that I'm super busy,
no, I know,
especially right now. I've got a
always
bunch of
busy.
house projects and stuff in addition to working a lot. So as soon as I have some time, I will sit down and watch it. But up next for me is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 80.
Yes.
And this is another, I haven't been able to catch up on reading this series, but I have loved the Power Rangers ever since we were kids. So been picking up these. I get them pulled for me, so I will eventually get around to reading all of them.
Well, this one is
Um,
starting off the Eltarian War. So Zordon's
yes, I
people, the
did see that on the
Eltarians,
back.
yeah, I mean they're
Yeah.
like, kind of always been thought as good people, but in the comics we found out that that's not quite right. And
Mm.
now the war against Earth is coming to it, and this is where we're starting out now. It's gonna be awesome, bro. I know you, like I said, you don't have a lot of time, but it's so good. I absolutely love that book.
Yeah, awesome. I will definitely try and catch up as soon as I can. Up next for me, this is one of the comics that I will be reviewing for our weekly reviews on Friday or Saturday, and this is My Date with Monsters number 1.
That one looked really good.
Yeah, and this is a Aftershock comic. I've also enjoyed quite a few of the Aftershock storylines that have been
Mm,
coming out. This is the other one. My second one that I will be reviewing is Phenom X, and
the
this is the John
Leguizamo,
Leguizamo. So
yes.
I'm really looking forward to this one. This one's actually pretty thick, so this one might take a little bit to read through,
Oh, nice.
but it looks good. Up next for me is Star Wars: The High Republic, and this is issue number 11.
Another great book. High Republic's been amazing. Loving all that
Yeah.
new lore we're getting.
Oh, absolutely. And then, of course, I picked up Venom number 1. This is the Al Ewing one.
Oh, excellent.
And so I'm looking forward to seeing where he takes this.
Yeah, it's supposed to be about Dylan Brock, and he's
Yeah.
now the new Venom. And yeah, it's gonna be hopefully quite a good story. Let's see if he can fill Kate's shoes on that.
Yeah. And then last I did get the blank black variant to
Ooh, I
see
like that.
for LA Comic Con to see if I could find somebody to do a commission cover for me.
I mean, Kate's is gonna be there, from what I hear. Maybe you can get him to commission it.
Well, Stegman's going to be there
A
too.
Stegman there too. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And that's it for me for the new comic books. I did end up having to go over to a local pawn shop to pick up a tool that I needed for a house project. And I was able to find a few cool issues, and they gave them to me for $1 each. So, yeah,
Heck
we
yeah,
can
that's
run through
awesome.
those real quick
By all
too.
means, yeah, you picked him up today. Go for it, bro.
All right. So I picked up a Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the only issue they had, but every time I see these, I try and pick them up just because I don't like, I have quite a few Star Trek comics and I've been trying to put together a full run. But there are quite a few holes, especially in the Deep
Mm.
Space Nine run that I need to fill.
So you got a Ferengi on
Um,
that cover. Is that Brunt or is that Quark or who's that? Who's
it
that supposed
looks
to be?
kind of like Quark, but there's a baby grabbing his nose.
Oh gosh. All right, that's cool, bro.
So yeah, it looks like Quark, but I don't know. They kind of all look a little bit alike, especially
You
in
gotta.
the
It's
art,
all
like
about
the
the
drawn.
lobes. You gotta look at the lobes.
Yeah, but I don't know because it's so cartoony. It's kind of hard. Like I don't know. I'll read it and let you know. And then this one's really beat up, but still fun to have. It's the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 184, and this is the first appearance of the White Dragon.
Very cool. Hopefully that one picks up, some steam in the future Spider-Man movies. Maybe they pull that character out of the woodworks.
Yeah, I could see him being like a quick little like cameo appearance, getting beat down by Spider-Man or something,
Yeah,
getting tied up and
give him
left for the police to come and get.
right, give him the Paul Giamatti, kind of
Yep.
just a little one-scener at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like they got to pull some of those C and D list villains out and throw them in for cameos,
Uh,
just for all the comic book fans.
yeah, and they should bring at least, bring the Rhino back. I mean, even if it's not Paul Giamatti or
Oh yeah.
whatnot, but like, come on, let's get a good Rhino in there.
Yeah, and for a buck, like definitely I will pick these beat up copies for a buck up any day.
Oh, heck yeah. Better to
And
have
then
one than not.
going into 12 centers, I found a good handful of some old like Navy war heroes.
Well, those are cool.
Uh, yeah, I got another issue here, and these are all a buck each too.
Very cool. I love those old just art covers. Like they're just so awesome. Something that we're
Oh
missing
yeah,
nowadays. Some of these
I think I
great
opened some of these
iconic
up. They're
covers.
from like 1964, and then here's Fighting Navy,
Very cool.
another issue. And I think this one's like some of these. I think these are like the 101, 115, 116, something like that.
Mm,
So yeah, just some awesome art, awesome old war comics, which I pick up as whenever I find them, as long as they're a decent price, because some of those things can get pricey.
oh
I know
yeah.
Matt tries to collect the Wings comics, and man, those things, even in like point 0.5 grade, uh, they're like hundreds. So yeah, whenever I see those, I try and pick them up. I just think they're cool, cool to read, cool to see the history,
Yeah.
just overall fun to have.
I always forget about going to the pawn shops and checking out to see if they have any books.
Yeah, it was just a fluke. I called around and asking for the tool that I was looking for, putting some hardwood floor down, needed a nailer. So didn't want to spend full price Lowe's or anything. So yeah, one shop said they had one, so ran over there and they happened to have some comics.
Heck yeah, you got lucky on that. That's awesome, bro. Well, damn, that's some really
Yeah.
cool pickups today, bro. And thank you for showing us those. I definitely hope that I can get to the shop here, hopefully tomorrow. But with this new position I'm starting, they're definitely kind of getting me rolling. So I might be working a little late this next couple days, but not a
Yeah, man,
problem.
you need to get your comics so you can do your weekly reviews.
Oh, I'll get them way before then. Don't worry about that. I'll definitely have that all set and ready. But the shop's also got my books pulled, so I don't really have to worry too much on missing out. But
Yeah, sounds good.
that's it for at least our pickups today. But Nick and I wanted to go ahead and bring back our Let's Chat. It's been a while since we've done this, and we figured that since we had the new Eternals movie come out, both of us were finally able to watch it, and we wanted to just go ahead and talk about some of our feelings on it. And just kind of, go
Yeah.
over what overall like we liked and disliked about the film. So, if you guys haven't seen the film, we'll probably have a couple spoilers in here. So I'm going to go ahead and warn you ahead of time that if you don't want anything spoiled, it's not going to hurt our feelings. You can go ahead and stop the video right here. But if you have seen it and you still are interested to see what our thoughts are, by all means, we'll go ahead and we'll get right into it. Well, first off, Nick, let me ask you, what were your first initial feelings when you saw this film?
So I kind of left the theater not disappointed, but kind of neutral. I don't know that I necessarily thoroughly enjoyed it, but I didn't dislike it.
I think that's fair.
Um, it was definitely different.
Yeah.
It's more of a like a slow, but it just had a weird vibe to it, like almost an awkwardness.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like how kind of like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind or like Donnie Darko, where it's just kind of like a lot of noiseless space.
Mm. Well, yeah, I get what you're trying to say here, and I definitely felt similar in many regards to this movie because I my first initial reaction with seeing this film was there were some parts that I really enjoyed, and it felt a lot like the first, like I would call it the Thanos Infinity Gauntlet arc that they spent all those years telling in like the old Marvel style. But then it was also like trying to set up the future coming in the films. And the story felt a little disjointed for me, almost like it didn't necessarily know exactly what it was. and they were trying to figure it out. Um, but just to kind of go over it with the Eternals, we basically find out that these beings have been on this planet for the past 7,000 years, and they were
Hmm.
sent here by the Celestials. One in particular named Erishim, and he basically has created these beings. I know I'm kind of jumping a little ahead of it, but just for discussion's sake, we find out that he has created these beings, and they are sent to this planet, what they first think as, to basically not interfere with human evolution and their growth, but they are to protect them from the deviants, which are also these creatures that, as it turns out, were also created by the Celestials to eradicate. So deviants were created to eradicate predators, essentially. And I guess I should just
Well,
kind
to
of
do the same thing that the Eternals were sent to do.
right, because the Eternals were then sent to, because the deviants got out of control, and then they started to evolve, and they needed something to stop them, and so that's why the Eternals were created, and then they were sent on their mission to stop these deviants. And that's as far as the Eternals knew, at least the majority of them. Um, but it turns out that the main reason that both of these creatures, the Eternals and the Deviants, were created is because throughout the universe, there are like these celestial seeds planted into planets. And in order for them to grow and then emerge from the planet, they need, and I'm this was a little confusing for me, but they need human spirit or emotions or
They just need a certain amount of like human bodies, human population. So there needs to be enough sustenance on the planet for them to absorb to basically break out of their egg, which is the planet.
okay, so that's, they, yeah, they like essentially allow humans to grow in number, and like you said, they use them as sustenance to then hatch out of the planets. And this is where I was kind of like, okay. But
Yeah.
one of the big issues was is that when Thanos came around and he snapped half of everyone in the universe out of existence, it put a time, like it put the Celestial a little back from its initial emergence date. And then all of a sudden, when the Avengers and heroes ended up defeating Thanos and bringing everyone back, it jump started everything again. And so now we have the Eternals on this planet who have spent this many thousands of years, 7,000 years with these humans, and some of them have grown quite attached to humans because across all the planets and all of their eons of living, um, there's just something about humanity that has hit a soft spot in them, and basically they haven't found that anywhere else, and so they want to now protect it, kind of thing. So it's an interesting story. One of my favorite things about the film, honestly, was there's two Eternals that I really really enjoyed, and it was Kingo and Druig. I don't know if you felt the same.
I don't know. Druid kind of got a little annoying for me.
I loved the actor who portrayed him, and
Oh,
he just did a great
absolutely.
job. And yeah, because Druig, he has the ability to like mind control people and can
Yeah.
and get them to do whatever he wants. And so we see in part of the movie that after so many years of growing with, I think they were at Babylon, right? There was
Hmm.
like their home base.
Yeah.
And there was a war that happened, and he just hates seeing like these human beings murdering and destroying one another in cold
Well, he
blood.
hates the fact that he can change it but can't.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. Is like he's just watching all this happen, and Ajak, their leader, who is played by Salma Hayek, basically has been the one that's like, no, we can't interfere because she's the one that's able to commune with Erishim. who's the head celestial, or at least their head celestial. And so that was just what they were always told. And so he gets a little kind of upset that he can't intervene because, like you said, he could change it all in an instant, kind of thing. He'll just stop all the wars, and he can make paradise and all this other stuff. And during after that whole scene with that war, we get to see that Ajak, or Salma Hayek, basically agrees that, like, okay, well, we basically completed our mission. We've defeated all the deviants. I'm going to let all you guys go and live out the rest of your lives until we get our call back from Erishim to actually come home, kind of thing. And
Hmm.
so he goes off on his own. He goes into hermit out in the woods, and has his own little group of people that he kind of works with. But I thought that
He doesn't work with them.
well, he does, because he even says that because he's asked at one point, well, why didn't you go and just start controlling everyone? And he realized that that is just against human nature, essentially, and it wasn't
Yeah,
right to do so.
yeah,
So he did grow, and he did learn in that sense. But I really loved his character development, and I loved his attitude, and I just thought he was a great character. And then there with Kingo was just he was a great comedic relief.
yeah,
He's basically spent his days becoming a Bollywood star, and he got it down into this pack where it's like this family of actors who are really just him over the years,
yeah,
but so he can explain why he's lived so long. Well, he fakes like deaths or something in between, but it's like he played his great grandfather, and then his father, and then the kid, and so on and so forth, kind of thing. So, but he did such a great job, and he didn't overdo the comedy, kind of thing. I thought
yeah.
I thought he was a lot of fun.
I thought his driver was probably the best part of the movie.
How many cameras you got?
The, yeah, he was definitely the better of the comedic relief. Kingo was definitely really good, but his driver was the best part.
Yeah, he was always trying to document everything, and they were going to do this big documentary to finally come out, because this all happens where all of a sudden one day we have Sprite, who is an Eternal that is like an illusionist, almost kind of like Loki in a sense. I felt.
Mhm.
She can be a little mischievous, a little deviant, but yeah, she has the power of illusions. But she's always a kid. She never grows up, kind of thing. And so that's her part of her own story, and some of her issues is that she would rather, or she wants to be able to grow up and actually love, essentially, which is a huge part of this film. Love and
Yeah, oh
loving
yeah,
who you want to love, regardless of what, like it's all throughout this movie.
yeah.
Um,
This is a very love inclusive film,
yes.
and I think that was so. I think they did a good job with all of their relationships and everything, but I think they did kind of take away from the superhero aspect of it in order to do that.
Hmm.
So I think that's where the movie kind of failed for me. And I don't want to say fail because it didn't fail. Like I still really liked the movie.
Hmm.
It definitely is on the bottom of my ranking list for Marvel movies, but I think all of the Marvel movies are great. Um, but I think like they kind of made those relationships as like the entire story, and the Marvel universe took a backseat.
Yeah, and I could definitely agree with you on that. Like I thought I wouldn't put this as my bottom of the list movie, but
Maybe not the
um
bottom, but it's not one of the better superhero movies that I have seen.
yeah, I'll give you that. And honestly, I think they kind of did that whole relationships, and really honing that in, is because they wanted to show you, like, that these Eternals, on why they really fell in love with humanity, that they wanted to be part of humanity,
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yeah, and I did get that, but I think what I'm trying to say is that like leaving the movie, I'm not really fully invested, or I don't feel the impending doom of the impact that this movie had on
Right.
the overall MCU.
Right. Okay, I get you.
So like that's my point. In a as a movie, it's a great movie. I thought it was really good. I loved the all the love scene, the just feelings between all the characters, the sadness between like the broken relationships and everything,
Hmm.
or the feeling of losing your family, stuff like I thought that they did an amazing job.
Right.
But
They
overall
did.
in the MCU, I don't feel like this movie needed to really happen.
No, no, I
It-
and I agree with that. I agree. It did feel like just like a cusp, the cusp between the two phases or two stories that they're telling with Marvel. It was just like a filler
yeah,
in between, like the bridge between it. And it really wasn't
but
even
I
that
don't even
great of
think
a
there was a
bridge.
bridge.
But
This is like a straw.
right, right, right. But getting back, let's get back to the story real quick on this, because you did say that it was a lot about like the heartbreak and the relationships and losing that, and kind of getting back to where this story started to take off, or where they really started to like bring everyone back. And this is where I felt it was a lot like the Avengers. Like in that film, in the Avengers film, you had Coulson, who was the catalyst to bring all of those heroes back together, or bring them together for the first time so they could put aside their differences to unify to save for the greater good, or for humanity. And in this sense, we saw that some of the deviants had come back, kind of thing. And now that the deviants are back, a couple of the Eternals have started to show back up. So at first we see Cersei and Sprite. They're like roommates living in this, well, I don't remember the city, but it doesn't really matter. But either way, they get attacked, and then Icarus shows up out of nowhere. And Icarus is like the Superman character, and he's played by Richard Madden, who was Rob Stark, I believe it was, in the Game of Thrones films. Um, but quickly we find out that Cersei and Icarus used to have a pretty solid relationship throughout the centuries.
They're
In the
married.
past, they were married, yeah, kind of thing. Uh, but for whatever reason, Icarus up and left for whatever reason, and basically left Cersei, and so she went on with her life. But at this time, she is kind of dating slash seeing Dane, who was played by Kit Harrington,
Kid
who is
Harrington.
also from Game of Thrones as Jon Snow. Um, and he was just a very small part of this film. He was just basically like the boyfriend, but now he
Yep.
sees that there was some other relationship because he's trying to move forward, and Cersei is really reserved. But either way, they get attacked by this deviant. Icarus shows up, and basically Superman's his way. And I don't know what it was, but he only used, like, I was like, why does he always use his laser eyes? That's all he does. It's laser eye everything. But either way, they figure out like, oh well, the deviants are back, so now we really need to, for one, get to Ajax, who is their leader, and figure out what to do. But they also need to start bringing all of the Eternals back together, kind of thing. Um, but we notice that with this deviant that attacks, there is something different and special compared to the deviants that they faced in the past. It is actually able to use an ability to heal itself. And the only time that they've ever encountered this ability was from Ajax, because that was her
That's
ability.
her power.
Yeah, that's her
Yeah.
ability. She's able to heal. Um, and basically, they head out and they go to find Ajax, only to come up and find that she's dead. And that's where we start to see, and they start to plant the seed like, oh, well, the deviants must have gotten to her and killed her. And this one deviant is absorbing their powers, which is
Has evolved.
has
Yep.
evolved and is
Evolved to
now
be
able
able
to do
to
that.
absorb.
Right.
Yep.
Kind of thing. And so it sets them off on this journey. And that's where I find like the catalyst kind of thing, like the Coulson aspect of it. Now they got to go and they got to find everyone. And so they take time one by one, picking up the other Eternals, telling them, like, oh, well, our leader's dead. We got to now fight these deviants, and we got to figure out what's going on, kind of thing. So after they collect everyone, I know I'm going to kind of jump a little faster into this, but after they collect everyone and they finally start to kind of come back together, they end up learning the truth behind why they're actually on this planet. And the truth is that Earth is one of the planets that is holding one of the celestial seeds. And now that all these people are back after the snap, it has awoken and it's starting to emerge out of the planet and it's causing havoc, unprecedented earthquakes across the world, all this stuff. And now it puts the Eternals at odds with each other at some point. Well, some of them are at odds because they don't want to see this planet destroyed. And they also learn that this isn't the first time that they've helped do this.
They've
That
been doing it for millions of
for a
years.
long time. It's just they don't remember it because every time they do it, Erishim basically downloads their memories and keeps them in some cosmic server where he could go and, learn
Study
about
them.
these and study them, and then wipes their memories and sends them out again. So now they're, like I said, they're at this odds where they, for the first time in as long as they know, or as far as they know, they are going against Erishim's will, which they have never done before. And that really puts Icarus at odds with that, because Icarus is the soldier that's always followed and kind of thing. So we already see that he's starting to have some issues. But while this is going on, the Deviant is also going around and attacking the Eternals, and he ends up killing a couple of them and absolutely absorbs their powers again. He kills Gilgamesh, who was Matt Dong Seok. I apologize if I mispronounced that, but he was an awesome character. I really enjoyed him. It's just that he was so short-lived. I felt
Yeah.
like I really liked when you first got to see him, and he's giving everyone this drink, this wine, and it ends up turning out that it's like his own spit that he's been like fermenting and stuff, and yeah, it was just funny. But he has gone and he went off with Athena, who was played by Angelina Jolie, who was the goddess Athena kind of thing. It's like, but her name is Athena. It's just throughout history they've added the A and it's Athena, and it's been part of the
I,
stories.
I really thought she was going to sacrifice herself to save Gilgamesh,
I
but
thought so, but the thing with her is that, and this kind of plays into their whole memories, is that she at one point in the film starts, like, she freaks out, like her eyes go white and she basically goes into this primal state where she just annihilates everything kind of thing. And so to kind of keep her where she's at, because she really, at one point Ajax was going to wipe her memory, because I guess they have that ability in the ship, because throughout the ages, and I guess this has happened to Eternals, is that with all those memories throughout the eons that they're alive, or the thousands of years they're alive, the mind kind of breaks down and it gets into the state, and sometimes it's irreversible unless you wipe their memory.
well,
But
that's what they're
what
told.
they're told,
But what really happened is the download and what memory wipe from the last times
right,
has not worked on her correctly.
right, and
So
that's
she
why
still
she's having
had
these.
memories of the previous events. So she knew that they were going to be trying to kill everything on the planet
Yep.
to birth this new celestial.
Right. And so, in order to kind of keep her memories and keep what she's loved and learned from this planet, her and Gilgamesh kind of go off into seclusion, because Gilgamesh has a thing for Thena. That's his love. And so he dedicates his life to protect her and make sure that she doesn't lapse back into that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, so he ends up dying. The Deviant absorbs his powers, gaining his strength ability, and every time the Deviant absorbs more powers, he evolves more into a being. And this I wasn't a huge fan of. Not necessarily the idea that he was evolving, it's just that the movie absolutely just threw that character away. It was like watching Steppenwolf from the Joss Whedon's Justice League. Like, for one, the graphics were kind of, I don't know, they were like subpar this film. They weren't nearly as good as some of the other previous Marvel films, but whatever. But he just looked funky to me, like,
I'm
and
wondering if that's just because they're like capped out on CGI effects because of all the Disney Plus shows and all the movies that are
but
being
some of the Disney Plus
made
had
right now.
better graphics done in it. Like it was,
But I mean that's what I'm saying. Like I wonder if they had to find additional funds.
oh, maybe
And,
maybe with all
yeah,
this line of cast, they probably had to scrape some money out of the,
exactly.
look under the couch cushions and stuff. But either way, but this character that they were developing as kind of like the bad guy of this film turned out to be not the bad guy. Not that he was like nothing. Essentially, he was really no point to the story besides just, I guess, exposition to like give you more info on the story on
Yeah, I mean
why.
he was a plot device
Yeah.
to keep the Eternals busy, and allow them that additional thought to really understand what has happened.
Well, a lot of it was is when he finally spoke and he started telling them that the reason why he's going after these beings, the deviants, is because the Eternals have just been aimlessly killing them all these years,
Yep.
and that they were pissed off. The deviants were pissed off at Erishim because they were also created by him, but yet now he wants to kill them and they just want to live. So now you're almost like, okay, you guys are the same, and that's all he was there for. Was just to be like, okay, you guys have the common enemy of Erishim, but you're still gonna kill each other because that's still your mission. And it was like it didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel like it was sloppy for me. For me, it just didn't work out because what I'm getting at is that at the end of this, getting back to Icarus, turns out Icarus is like the main bad guy in this because Ajax did tell Icarus what the true mission was.
And that's why he left Cersei,
Yeah, that's why he left Cersei, kind of thing. And so,
because he didn't want to tell her.
right, and so he went on his own. But now, with everything going on, the deviants showing up, he's led them on this wild goose chase, trying to figure out and hunt down this deviant. But then it turns out that when he first learned that the deviants were back, he went to go see Ajax first. And when he went to see Ajax, she basically had changed her mind and she was questioning Erishim's word at that point. And she had fallen in love with the human and humanity, or humans and humanity, and now wanted to and was questioning, like I said, Erishim's word, and she wanted to basically figure out a way to stop the emergence. And that didn't sit well with Icarus because he's always been the soldier that follows the rules, and a good soldier follows orders. Thing, little Star Wars stuff. Um, and he ends up taking Ajax out to show her the deviants because I guess the deviants were frozen in ice all these years, and they just started to thaw because the planet heating up and the world heating up is because of the celestial that's coming out of it, and that's starting to thaw, and that's where these creatures came from. Well,
The earthquakes caused like fissures or something
yeah,
like that that were melting the ice.
something that, yeah, and he ended up basically sacrificing her, pushing her in there and let the deviants kill her, and then he took her body and put it out in the field next to her house, and then ends up going to the other celestials, and this all comes to finally fruition where he shows back up with them. He's like, oh no, look, she's dead. Kind of thing, playing stupid. But at the end of it, while the other Eternals, after finally reuniting and trying to coming up with a plan on what to do, um, he basically is like, well, I let you get this far, but I can't let you go any farther. And if you try and stop this, I'm going to kill you guys. Which is like, okay, what the heck's going on? But one of the cool things at this point, which we didn't get to see hardly any in the film until the very last ends, we got to meet Makari, who was the deaf Eternal in this. She was a speedster as well, which was really cool. I actually really liked
Yeah.
her abilities, and she whoops some ass in this.
Oh
And
yeah.
I wanted like more of it. I'm like, hell yeah, whoop some ass like that. She was just tearing people up. But
Well,
we didn't.
specifically Icarus.
Yeah, especially Icarus at that point. But yeah, but now we've got, like I said, and this is where I kind of feel like it was sloppy, and the ending, it was just like the last act, the third act was just sloppy for me. Because now Icarus is the bad guy. He's trying to stop the emergence. The other Eternals are still trying to lick their wounds because he like blew up their ship and like beat them up kind of thing. And now they're still trying to figure out how to stop the Eternal, or the, well, now Icarus, the Deviant, and the Celestial emergence. And it was just all over the place. Um, and then from there, yeah, again, like I'm remembering it, and I'm like, gosh, it's still bothering me that they did this, because they're fighting Icarus, he's fighting Circe. The Circe now has the ability, because she can like transmute things into other objects as long as they are inanimate. But for
Mhm.
whatever reason, at some point, she was able to transmute a living being or a deviant into a tree. And that was like the first time she's ever been able to do that in all of her time. And so now they're thinking about using her to transmute the celestial that's coming out and either put it to sleep. Well, they were going to try and put it to sleep, but that failed with Druig because Icarus screwed that plan up. Um, and so she was just going to like transmute the whole thing. But in order to do so, they needed to unite as the Unimind with these special bands, which I think that's where they tie into Shang-Chi. So we'll end up getting more into that and how Shang-Chi's tied into the Eternals at some point in Marvel's films. Um, but yeah, so the Deviant shows up, they deal with him. Athena is basically whoops its ass and kills it. So then it's like, okay, that's where I was like, okay, well that was pointless. And now Icarus is, fighting, and he's kind of getting his ass kicked too. That was pretty cool to see. Fastos, I think his name is,
Yeah,
when he's like the,
Festos.
the the tech. He's the one that comes up with all the technology throughout the years, kind of thing, and helping humanity move forward. And so he's building the Unimind to unite the Eternals, and so they could basically share their power to Circe to amplify her power and destroy the Celestial, kind of thing. Um, and it was weird because we end up seeing that Sprite also turned on them, because it turns out Sprite had fallen in love with Icarus all this time, and so she let her love take over and like joined him, and like also tried to stop Circe and ended up stabbing her at one point. And then Druid just like cold cocked her in the rock.
That was one of my favorite fight scenes.
It was great, but like even then, like I mean, Icarus like put that guy into the dirt literally, and then he just showed up out of nowhere. It was like, Circe, poof, you're done. I'm sorry,
Well, I mean, all the
Sprite. It was a
Eternals,
Circe, but she's Sprite.
yeah, it was Sprite. But all the Eternals do have enhanced abilities, and they're not like mortal beings. They are immortal, so of course it makes sense that Druid would still be alive even if
Well, immortal doesn't
uh
mean like fully immune to like all the beatings
no,
and
but they are stronger than normal humans and everything.
sure.
And all Icarus did was blast him deeper into the ground.
I mean, if you're
Like,
taking an eye blast from like a Superman character and it's drilling you into the earth, you're gonna
sure,
have some issues.
sure. Yeah, and I can see that. I really did enjoy Phastos's character. I think he was probably my favorite
Okay.
of all of the Eternals. I definitely liked his progression and how he had given up on humanity until he found love
All right. With his
and
husband.
created a family with
Yep.
his husband. Yeah. So I really did enjoy his character arc. I don't think that they did as good of a job with like Sprite. I think she could have had more of a development.
Mm-hmm.
Like you sure you had like a little bit of that jealousy kind of, or like longing for growing up, with like the whole bar scene where she was making herself appear as an adult.
Right.
um
Yeah.
and but there wasn't like a whole lot of dialogue that really said anything about that. It was
Mm-hmm.
only the other characters that were like, oh, you didn't realize she loved Icarus.
Right. Right. And that was
And that
Kingo.
was at the very end.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that was like in the third act. And so like I definitely agree with you that the third act was kind of disjointed. It just didn't seem like there was too much going on in a short amount of time, so they just threw one liners in there to kind of explain these entire plot
Yep.
changes.
Yeah. Yeah. And meanwhile, the friggin' Celestials were literally coming out of the earth. And that
Yeah,
that was another thing I had a problem with. Like visually, it was cool. It was cool to see that, but I'm like, damn, this thing is literally like ripping out of the earth, and it's not necessarily affecting anything else. And then
yeah,
Cersei finally, she goes like, after like Goku pulling the fucking spirit bomb from the rest of humanity to get power to defeat this thing, ends up turning the Celestial into rock
to marble.
or so marble rock, whatever it is, and basically kills it. And that's where like, and then Icarus shows up because he escapes out of the trap that Fastos had him in, and basically flies over to Cersei, and he could have just annihilated her. She was completely vulnerable, just sitting there looking at him, and then they
I
share
was
these
waiting for
uh,
him to turn into marble.
or something.
Like I thought, because they were focusing on his face so much, that the rest of his body, the reason why he didn't do anything was because the rest of his body was like marble.
Yeah, yeah,
Like that's what I was 100% convinced that was going to happen.
or something. Turn them into butterflies or something. Seriously,
like
like.
like just the way they framed the shot and everything, it
Mm-hmm.
just seemed like it was going to be one of those scenes where he was sad because he realized too late that he gave up on this love,
But he
and
still
like he
loved her, and
couldn't.
that's what stopped him. Like he still
I
had
I
so much love
know,
for
I know,
her.
but I was thinking that because he looked so sad, that it was
Right.
because he felt all of these emotions, but he was dying.
I got
Like
you.
that
I
they were going
got
to
you.
pan out and that he was going to be like stone.
And I think that probably would have been a better ending if they did. But
Yeah.
instead, we got her like, "What are you gonna
Flew too
do?
close to the sun.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?" And then he's looking at her and he's like contemplating it. And then they start doing the flashbacks of where they boned out in the desert, like all this other stuff, and their love and history. And then he just kind of like and like takes off flying and like, "I'm out of here." And
Well, that
then,
was after she turned him into the Unimind,
well,
because
right, that's true. Yeah, they
the
did like
Unimind
connect
didn't
him.
even need those bracelets. So I don't know if you got that or not, but
Well, it's because
all of the
she,
bracelets
right, I
weren't,
guess,
because she was the Prime Eternal.
right,
She had that power. So
right.
that's how it is in the comics, where the Prime Eternal can combine all of the Eternals of that planet together and form the Unimind.
Okay, because then they kind of, so that's a little different than how they portrayed in the film. Because what they were saying is like, oh, when I touched the Celestial, some of its
Yeah.
powers were transferred to me and amplified me, and then I was able to connect us all
Yeah.
and use our
Yeah.
powers.
See, yep. I think they could have probably come up with a better solution, maybe the exact one that's in the comics or something like that.
I think it would have worked fine.
Yeah, because the Unimind, like it is the Prime Eternal that has the power to pull together all of the Eternals from that planet and turn them into the Unimind. And I think
It,
at one point in the comics, the Unimind even becomes like sentient,
huh. See,
and then they
I
have to
still have to
like
read those.
Ajax breaks off from the Unimind or something like that.
Interesting. Okay, I still have see that, and that's part of one issue I had. Well, it's not an issue with the film, but I just I went into this movie not really knowing much about any of the Eternals. I mean, anything that Jack
Yeah,
Kirby had written, I was more into the New God stuff that he did at DC, and I know this is kind of like, he took that idea that he had a DC with the New Gods and brought it over and made the Eternals. Um, and it's something I need to go back and read. I was watching Brandon's channel over at Comics Kings, and they did a pretty good review on one of the trades about the Eternals, and it definitely had some of that information that this movie was utilizing. So I will definitely
Hmm.
have to pick that up and read it and actually kind of dive into it. And I also got to read the Kirby stuff. So I went in just like, this is the movie, I'm in for the ride. Let me have it. And it, like I said, it was just all over the place. And I'm like, I went out and I ended up going to the screening from the comic shop that was out here. They invite every so often, they invite us to go watch some of these films with them. And I was talking with the owner, June, and he's like, "So what do you think about it?" And I'm like, "Well, I enjoyed it. I thought it was decent. It was okay of a film, but like now I got to go buy all these books and figure out what the hell I just watched."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but I think the problem is like they didn't really pull a whole lot from the comics.
hmm,
I think they're like I've watched a couple of YouTube videos. I don't remember which storyline is similar to it, but there are a few YouTube videos out there that say which storyline a lot of this stuff got pulled from.
hmm.
But even though it got pulled from like this one comic line, I don't think it stayed true to what's in the comics. Like they made up a lot of stuff with the Eternals,
Which I can
which is
understand for the
fine,
Marvel because they've done that throughout
but
the
it
others. I
needs to be
mean,
fleshed out, and I
yeah,
don't think they really did that
right.
here.
I mean, the whole Thanos reason for snapping half the universe was completely different from the books. So they take,
Sure.
liberties in these films, and I'm okay with that. I just think I needed a more of a foundation in
Hmm.
understanding where these characters came from, like I had in the previous Marvel films, because I grew up reading all of those. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, so and that like getting back to the film, even after Icarus leaves, the just takes off into space, which I didn't really. That was
Well,
another
he
thing he
flies
had.
into the sun
Yeah, into the sun. He
because
gets
Icarus in
too close to the
mythology
sun.
flies too close to the sun.
That's true. Um, but it's like it doesn't even end there because then we get real quick we get Kit Harington back, and
Yep.
then it shows Cersei, and they're all it's weeks later or months later after the whole incident, and like the celestial out of the planet, still this rock like halfway out of the planet, which I was like, okay. um and and he's basically finally seeing that Cersei is kind of opening up to the relationship between them. He's always been trying to get her to move in. And but unfortunately, while they're sitting there talking, and she even asks him, and this is where we first get that little hint about him. Like, oh well, because he asks about like, oh well, what about your friends or whatever? And he's like, oh, it's complicated, and she's like, well, what about your family? So, well, my family history is pretty complicated, kind of thing.
Yeah.
He gives this little hint, but then while that happens, guess who shows up? But Erishim shows up over the planet. It's like, okay, God, the people of Earth and this is one thing I actually did like because in the comics they do this a lot because you always wonder as civilians, like, what the hell are they thinking? Like with all this shit going around, like there's this
Yeah.
gigantic celestial overlooking the planet now, and one just tried emerging. Now it's halfway sticking out of the planet, and it's like these guys have got to be like, oh God, we're just in this ride and we can't get off. but but Erishim shows up and he's a little pissed because they stopped the celestial coming out and thus stopped the potential growth and lives of billions of other species that would have arose out of the celestial being birthed, kind of thing. And that's how they're like the life and death of the universe, kind of thing. The celestials control that with these emergences and stuff. um and he ends up like just snatching up the Eternals that are on the planet still and brings them up there, and he's like, okay, you guys are now going to be judged by your memories on humanity, kind of thing. Like, humanity will survive if you can convince me why you guys killed the Celestial. And then he just disappears. And so now Kit Harington's like, no, my love, you're gone, I almost had you. And now he's got this like mission to get her back. And that brings us to I'm gonna jump ahead, but it brings us to our second after credit scene where he starts showing us a little bit more of why his family history is complicated. And so he is very knowledgeable in history, and he's a teacher. And so he goes into his room and he has this giant box that's there. And he's like, he wants to open it, like, oh, I got to, no, I can't do it, no, oh, I got to, no, I can't do it, kind of thing. And then he finally opens it up, and we see, oh gosh, what was the inscription that it said underneath the box? It was like, "Death is my reward." I think it
Something
was.
like that. I'm trying to remember. It's the ebony blade.
Well, right, getting to that, throwing that out there, that's what was in the box, is the ebony blade, meaning that his past is, I don't know if it's his grandfather or uncle or something. I'd have to look it up, but either way, he was the Black Knight and wasn't really a great guy, kind of thing. And so that's why Kit Harington has been so weary about this, especially with that inscription on the bottom. I mean, death is my reward. That is not something I necessarily want to be messing with. But he feels like he has to do this to go after and save Cersei. And when he goes to pick up the blade, and the blade is starting to shift and all this other stuff, I don't know from the souls or what it is. We hear a voice. It's like, "You sure you want to do that, kid?" Or something like that.
Are you sure you're ready for this?
"I'm sure you're ready for this." Yeah, there you go. That's what it is. And a lot of people in the theater that I was with, they kept saying, "Oh, it's Samuel L. Jackson." I'm like, "Have you guys ever heard Samuel L. Jackson? He's got a
It
very
is
distinct
not.
voice." And that was not Samuel L. Jackson. It is definitely not Nick Fury. But it, from my understanding and what I've looked up online, is it's Mahershala Ali, or at least that's
It is
what people
confirmed.
think. Is it confirmed
Nope,
now?
it's confirmed by Chloe Zhao, the director.
Okay, who is Blade in the future films? It's like, okay, you bring so okay, so now we're going with Blade. Coming with that, we got the Dark Knight, or the Black Knight, sorry, Black Knight. You got Blade, and then we've got the multiverse stuff with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, and then you got the multiverse stuff with the Scarlet Witch, and then you've got the Loki stuff, and it's like the Marvel place is going all over the place.
Spirits of Vengeance.
It's
That
all over.
I think they're putting together the Spirits of
And
Vengeance, the Ghost Rider story.
that would be cool. I would love for them to do some Ghost Rider stuff. Like, bring in some
Well, they're
good Ghost
putting.
Riders.
I think that's what this whole, like, because that's one of the main storylines
They gotta
where
bring Nicolas
Blade
Cage.
teams up. I don't know.
I would rather them go with the one they had in the Agents of Shield. Personally,
Yeah.
I thought he was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah. So now we've got this, and then there was one other credit scene that was
The
just
mid-credit
before this
scene,
one,
yep.
and this one was more in line with the Eternals. Because some of the Eternals decided to leave the planet. And so they're out in space for whatever reason why Erishim didn't grab them. Like, he
They
only
took
knew
the
where Earth
Domo.
was.
They took the Domo, which is their ship,
Right.
which was named. So Domo is one of the Eternals in the comics, but they named the
Oh,
ship Domo.
interesting. Okay. But how does he not know where that's at? You don't think the ship has like a homing beacon, or Erishim has a giant celestial nose? He just like, "Oh, I'm going to go to Earth because I know where that's at." You know, they haven't sent me any mail lately, so I haven't got a return address on there. I have no idea where the hell those guys are at.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's a reason why Erishim only travels in specific locations.
Hmm.
So I think we'll find out more in the coming movies about why the Celestials are trying to birth so many new Celestials, and why Ego is different, because Ego didn't look like a normal Celestial.
Right. And the only other celestial that we knew of was Nowhere, the dead celestial
Yep.
from the Guardians of the Galaxies. Or Guardians of the Galaxy, sorry. So it's like all of a sudden now there's like these celestials everywhere.
Well, I don't think they're everywhere, but I think that's what they're trying to do.
Interesting.
But who keeps the Celestials in check? Who's the one that goes around and devours only planets that are breeding Celestials?
Galactus.
Yeah.
And see, that's what I've always heard is Galactus was what the original what Marvel wanted originally as their phase one like big bad. Thanos came later. I always heard that it was going to be Galactus, but they didn't have the rights because
Yeah.
Fox had them with the Fantastic Four, and now that they own all that again, I could totally see Galactus showing up in there. And as well as the Fantastic Four and hopefully the X-Men at some point. Let's get the mutants here. But in this after credit scene, they're on the Domo, the other Eternals, and all of a sudden this troll shows up. And I didn't know anything
Teleports
until
in.
until you told me. But and who is that? Seth Rogen?
No, that is Patton Oswalt.
Oh, Patton Oswalt. It didn't sound like it sounded way deeper than Patton
No, that's
Oswalt.
Patton Oswalt, who I
Interesting.
believe has now played more characters in the MCU than anybody else.
That's pretty cool though. But he shows up, just teleports onto this the Domo, and it's his name is Pip the Troll. And as you've told me, because I
Yep.
unfortunately was not aware of this character, but as you said, go ahead and explain it.
So Pip's powers are that he can locate anyone anywhere, and he can teleport anywhere. So
That's how he
he'd be a
found these
great
guys.
companion to have,
Yeah, maybe he'll tell
especially to somebody like
Erishim,
Eros.
yeah, help Erishim out a little bit, figuring out where all these guys are at. But
Yep.
he shows up and he's drunk as hell, which is all right. That's cool, whatever. Also, the
That's
graphics
Pip.
graphics on that character was also just as bad. I'm like, what the hell is going on with these graphics? Maybe they did put it all in the freaking cast, but
Yeah.
um, he ends up teleporting another guy onto the ship, who comes out. He's all suave and debonair, and like he's got his cape and everything. Like, and it turns out that he is the brother. It's Star Fox, but it's the brother of Thanos,
Eros.
Eros. And so he now is, what do they look at? He's going to help them find or go
Well,
after
he comes
Eros.
and he tells them, "I know where your friends are,
Right,
and I can help you
because
find. Like,
that's right.
I can take you to them."
Because they've lost contact, and they did mention that while they're on the ship.
Yep.
Like, wow, we haven't got a phone call from the guys on Earth in a while, kind of thing. But okay, so now they're going to go after Erishim and figure out what's going on with the other
And he
Eternals
does
there.
introduce himself as Titan's Eternal.
Yes, which
So he
that's
is
right.
an Eternal
He
as
is an
well.
Eternal from Titan, kind of thing. So we get that now. So now that's another avenue that Marvel is going with, and I can just see people. Like, I remember when people would come ask me to try and figure out like where Marvel's going within their earlier stuff. They're like, "Oh, you're the comic nerd. Like, tell us what the hell is actually going on, because I can't follow this." This stuff, I can see people being like, "What the hell is going on with all this Marvel stuff?" They're just going all over the place. But I think, and I've kind of felt this way with the last few Marvel movies, is that I'm not really a huge like, "Oh, this was an amazing blockbuster, a big box office hit." It's like, "Oh, these were cool. Those were fun." But I think the after credit scenes were more fun than the movie was, kind of
Oh,
thing.
I was going to say that earlier, but I didn't want to get ahead of your discussion. I definitely think the biggest part of this movie are the mid-credit scene and the post-credit scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, it was quite interesting to get those, and it's got me excited. But now, like I said, I'm just like, where are they
Like
going to go
I
with all
was,
this?
I was, I don't think I really like had a whole lot of emotion throughout the entire movie until the mid-credit scene and until Pip showed up, and then I was just like smiling like a little idiot. Like my wife's like, "What's going on?"
Well, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, your
So
wife, she hasn't really read much of any comics. I'm sure you're sitting there telling her, giving her all
yeah,
the 411 on that.
but I'm super excited about Pip being in there because Pip is eventually the like companion of Beta Ray Bill. Because
Oh,
Beta Ray Bill saves his life, and he just
from
like
Airship.
kind of follows him around after that. So in this latest Beta Ray Bill comic, that 5-issue miniseries,
Mm-hmm.
um, Pip follows him to Muspelheim to find his new weapon,
Okay.
the Twilight Sword from Surtur.
Nice.
So he tags along with Scourge. So I'm really excited because I'm hoping that they're going to be bringing Beta Ray Bill in pretty soon.
They've hinted at Beta Ray Bill forever.
I
So,
know, but I think they're waiting until like they can really do the CGI justice.
well, this movie wasn't it, so hopefully they get better
No.
on that one. But like, but getting back to kind of with the CGI, like there were some scenes in there that I was like, oh, that's really kind of cool. Like some of the fights, Makari's speed, like all that stuff, like that was well done. But I don't know why they like these actual CG characters, they just didn't hit the mark for me on.
Yeah, I really loved Phastos's CG, all of the tech and
Mm-hmm.
everything, all of his like little circles and like all of his little weapons that he would just throw out and everything.
Yeah,
Like I thought those were amazing.
I thought they were really good too, and that's definitely why, like, especially once he started making those rings, I was like, yeah, Shang Chi, got it, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
because that after credit scene was something about the tech in there, like when they were looking into it and the tech wise, or something about it. So it's definitely the Eternals tech.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think so too.
Well, bro, I mean, that's pretty much the film that we kind of went all the way through. But if you were going to rate this out of 10, what would you give this film?
Uh I think that's kind of hard. I would say I could solidly rate this at a 6 out of 10. I think it was a good movie, solid story, but I just think that it fell a little short on its overall tie into the MCU. Just the overall feeling that you had during the movie. Like I didn't really find myself fully engaged
Right.
or like uh I don't know, like emotional at any point
Mm-hmm.
during the movie. Like none of the deaths really saddened me. Maybe Gilgamesh's,
Probably the most,
uh,
yeah.
but like when they found Ajax dead, I I wasn't invested in that character.
No.
Like we only saw like maybe a minute of her total.
Yeah, and with those deaths, like, because they were dead early in the film, so
Yeah,
like the majority of their acting in this film is all through flashbacks.
yeah. But I just didn't find myself like fully invested in it. I
I
thought it was a
agree.
good movie, but it just didn't like pull me in.
Yeah, and I agree. I think I would rate it right about where you're at. When I got out of the film and what I've told people that have asked me about it is I'm about in that 6.5 to 7 range. You know, it's like a good solid like C into B film. You know, same thing I felt with like Black Widow. And I know this isn't necessarily Marvel, but now that it's tied into it, but the same thing with the Carnage, you know, Let There Be Carnage from Venom. Um, it's like there were some fun and entertaining parts, but again, the after credit scene is really what shined in this film because I want to see what it's actually connecting to. But overall, I didn't have a huge connection that I was looking for that I've had in
Mhm.
movies past, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
So I definitely agree with you, bro. I think you've hit it pretty close to the mark on where I agree with, yeah. But you know, as far as this movie, you know, I definitely would say people definitely go out there and watch it. If you're interested in seeing this, definitely. I mean, don't take just our opinion for fact or even just like the reviews that are out there. Like go out there and make your own opinion on it. But yeah, it's I feel pretty solid with that grade, at least for me, I think.
yeah, yeah.
But I don't know. The future of the MCU still looks bright. I'm still going to be following along. Kevin Feige hasn't necessarily let us down yet. I mean, I know you and I differ on some of the movies that have come out. There's some I feel that are like just bad, but there's some that I'm like they're amazing. So the MCU has always done me justice, and I know I tend to lean more. I'm more of a bigger like DC Comics fan, but I grew up with a lot of the Marvel characters, and I love them just the same. So, um, yeah, it is what it is, and yeah, it was an enjoyable film. But
Yep.
I think we can go ahead and
Yep.
kind of wrap this up because I know we've been talking a good long while about it, but I thought it was a good discussion. And I really wanted to talk to you about it now that you watched it. I wish Matt has watched it, but gosh, Matt, come on, get on the ball, man. You're getting behind. So, but hopefully next time he'll jump in with us in the Spider-Man film. Hopefully we can do a little discussion review on that that's coming out because that film is looking to be amazing. And I hope that it's
Four
not
weeks
just I know it's coming around quick and I hope that all of this like
or 5 weeks.
hype
Sorry, 5.
well there you go. But I'm hoping that all this hype doesn't fall flat because everything I'm hearing in this Spider-Man film is like that's what I want. That's what I
I
have
don't
been
think it
waiting
will. I
for.
think the biggest problem with the Eternals is that nobody really knew. Like, not nobody, but most people did not really know or were not invested in the Eternals.
And but see even like and sorry we're getting back into this, but let's throw Guardians of the Galaxy in there. Like Guardians of the Galaxy was probably a little more well known than like the Eternals at that
Yes,
point, but they were still always like a C-list class characters. And that's what
but they
Marvel's
were
kind
funny.
of but see, and that's what I'm saying. The story and everything was so well done in that
Yes.
everyone loved it. I didn't have that feeling here
Yeah.
kind of thing. It fell apart for me, and we're not going to get into Guardians 2 because that's where you and I differ on this. uh, we're on opposite spectrums here on Guardians 2. Because that's where they, yeah, anyway, that's a whole nother video. But either way, I feel like with this one, even though, because Marvel's made their mark in bringing these random characters, or these characters that not necessarily were the most popular out there, and they've made them extremely likable and extremely fun and funny and just something that people want to invest their time in. And that's been the whole MCU so far. So with this movie, like I said, it didn't have what like Guardians had that I had felt where I'm like, damn, I really like these characters. I want to know more about them. Now I want to know more about the Eternals only because I want to figure out what the hell I watched.
Yeah.
But well, we'll go ahead and we'll leave it at that. Guys, if you guys have seen the film, definitely leave your thoughts down below because we'd really like to know what you guys feel about this film. Were we kind of on the same point? You know, did you have different thoughts? Were you more into it? Were you more against it? Like, definitely let us know down below because we'd really like to talk to you about it. And want to say thank you guys for taking the time to listen to us banter back and forth about it. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this, bro.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, guys, thank you again for watching. Hope you guys had a great new comic book day. Definitely leave us a comment down below. And also, while you're at it, if you enjoy this, consider giving us a thumbs up and hitting that like button because it really helps us out a lot. And if you guys aren't already subscribed to our channel, we would like to welcome you to possibly hit that subscribe button and join our comic community because we're in one of the greatest communities out here. There's so many great creators out there making out content, and we love just being a part of it. So, guys, thank you again for watching. We will catch you all later this week with our 10 and 10 review video. Have a good one, guys.
See ya.